Hi, Richard Pym, founding director of PIMCO. This video is about explaining why job seeking is so frustrating, why the three traditional job seeking tools are so incredibly frustrating, and why they can be so inefficient, the flaws within these things. And the biggest problem of all is that most people only do 1, 2, or 3 of these things in their job seeking strategy. That's not good enough. You are missing out. You are losing out to the people who are doing more proactive, smarter things. Okay, let me start with an analogy, which I'll probably end with as well. Think of jobs as falling out of the sky. That's where they originate, somewhere up there, the cloud probably. So they come out of the sky. The smart people are going to snatch them on the way down before they all land on the ground, because then you've got all the people down there scrambling over each other, beating each other up, heavy competition to get the best of what is left. Do you want to pluck out the best ones before they land, or do you want to scramble around getting the best of what's left? That's what we're talking about here. If you only do these things, you are on the ground. Okay? So why is this so frustrating? Well, we know about automated software, this, that, and the others. We know about applicant tracking systems and how your application is being processed by software instead of a person. And the insulting 2 hours to do an application, and within 30 seconds of submitting it, it deduces that you're not right for that job, and no human ever even saw it. How insulting is that? We know about the frustrating online portals. Did I get seen? Did it go through? Will it be acknowledged, read by a human, or is this just the machine? Okay. And we have the doubts about it. It's also impersonal, isn't it? And it's just kind of insulting when you put so much into your career. You're a specialist at what you do, and now you're having to play these silly games, and you are subjected to the frailties of these systems here to get a job. Unfortunately, this isn't going to go away anytime soon. But the good news is you don't only have to rely on that. Now, let me be clear at the outset. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't use these things. I'm suggesting you should use these things about 30% of your allocated job-seeking time and energy. Get it done, leave it alone. Yeah, keep an eye on them, but don't overdo it. That really depends on how you feel about them, doesn't it? So I'm going to break it down. Each one of these, help you understand what's really going on. That'll help you decide just how much time you want to put into them. It'll help you understand the problem. By understanding a problem, you break down the problem. The problem is smaller. It has less power to hurt you. And of course, you will be motivated to find alternatives, which we're not going to talk about today, although I will allude to them. Okay, I'll leave you with that thought at the end of this video. And of course, I've got other videos that addresses that directly. Okay, so why is this lot so frustrating? Well, first of all, why do people only do this? I've done 700 free consultations in the last 3 or 4 years with PIMCO now. And I always ask people, how do you do job seeking? What's your situation? What kind of results are you getting from your job search? How do you feel about those results? And the answers are always, I do 1, 2, or 3 of these things. Very rarely do they say anything outside of that. And if they do, we explore that and we find out if they're doing that well or not. You know, speculative approaches, that kind of thing. Okay. And invariably, if people are doing that, they're doing it a little bit clumsily. Okay. So they're relying on something here which is not always efficient, which is pretty much always frustrating. There's other things you can do. If you get motivated to realize how inadequate these things are, you get motivated to find those alternatives and become one of the proactive people that's now up there plucking the best jobs out of the sky instead of down there. Okay, so one by one, online job boards. This is essentially a database, isn't it? You register with the database, you add your CV, you fill in the boxes. That helps and let's just get the terminology straight here. You are the seller. Okay, I'm going to refer to you as the seller, selling your skills. The buyers are anyone who looks for talent. Okay, recruiters, hiring managers, HR people, whatever. Anyone looking for talent, they are the buyers. Let's get even more clear about your roles here. You, the seller, must influence the buyers to meet your objective. And so here are the 3 steps you're going to have to go through. We can't avoid this as job seeking. There's marketing to be done because you have to find people to influence. You have to identify a target audience. You have to communicate with them. That starts with identifying them. So it has to start with marketing. It leads into selling. Now you've got some people to talk to, communicate with. You need to influence them to your way of thinking, that you are an expert at what you do. Okay? Because job seeking's got nothing to do with how good you are. It's about how good you are at convincing them that you are good. That's a different set of skills entirely. And if, like with anything, if you need specialist help, you either figure it out yourself or you buy it in. Usually you buy it in because it takes too long to figure it out yourself. It's a specialist. Okay? I've done a lot of that figuring out for you already. You know this. Okay, so the roles then, you are the seller, they are the buyers. We have to go through marketing to find some of them. We have to go through selling to influence them, and we have to close the deal. So let me put that into 3 other terms, more specific to job seeking. You have to get noticed before you can impress anyone. You have to influence them to impress them enough that they want to interview you so you can close the deal, get the offer. Not the job. You might find at the interview it's a rubbish job, but you want the offers, don't you? And if you get more than one offer, you have the luxury of choice. Now we're talking, aren't we? Quality of life. Depends on the quality of your choices. Okay, so you understand the roles in all of this. So I'm going to talk about things very much from either your perspective, the seller, or their perspective, the buyers. All right, so online job boards here, you, the seller, register. It's free, that's great. And you're on a database, you might get lucky, okay? The buyers might go searching. Hopefully the algorithms deduce that you are one of the potential candidates there. You appear high enough up the list, and that's not guaranteed, by the way. The list might be 2,000 people. If you're high enough up that list, just maybe you get a chance to sell yourself. But if this worked all the time, every time, we wouldn't do anything else, would we? It's terrible if you want to be discreetly looking for a job. You're in a job, you're ready for a promotion, but there's nothing available at your company, you want out. Okay? It's terrible for discreet because you can be found on there, exposed for looking for another job on there. That can embarrass you. That has bad implications for your relationship with your current employer, which you might want to maintain as being good as long as possible. Okay? Because you want a reference from them. Terrible for discreet job seeking, and also not so good for the higher end positions. You know, the trouble is you're a needle in a haystack, and that haystack is full of the best of the unqualified, unhappy, and unemployed people. There's good talent on there always, but it's hard to find. And so it's not always the preferred source of talent from the recruiters or the buyers, okay? So where else would they look? How about LinkedIn? Because LinkedIn is now the most important database in the Western world for job seeking purposes, because it's the most up-to-date database of its kind, because people, for the most part, update their own profiles, way more so than the people registered in recruitment company databases, because they have to administer that, don't they? And so what are they going to do? They're going to sort of call you up every 2 weeks to check if your situation is still the same as it was? No. We are deferring now to LinkedIn more and more. It is a game changer in recruitment. It is to be taken seriously. It pains me to say that because I hate the way that, you know, they keep putting up the prices, removing a functionality, and then put up the prices, and you've got to buy back into it again for a higher subscription, whatever. All right, but nonetheless, it is a game changer in recruitment. It should be taken seriously. Okay, so online job boards, not as good for talent as LinkedIn, in my opinion, and many, many recruiters' opinions. And I was a recruiter for a lot of years. And so don't get too excited about this one, all right? And you certainly don't need help to use those, do you? Get it done, and then it might work for you. You might get lucky. Let's move on to this one here. Nightmare. Looks great, doesn't it? The attractiveness of all of those vacancies. But in fact, there's only a tiny proportion of those adverts are vacancies. Tiny. And I don't mean like 40% or 30%. I mean like maybe 1%. Let me explain. So a company then has a job. They have a vacancy. They go to, let's say, 4 recruiters. 4 recruiters write an advert on a piece of software which distributes that advert into all of the job boards into which they subscribe. So they maybe subscribe as a recruiter to 8 to 16 job boards or something. I've worked for companies that had 16 on the go. But let's say it's only 8. 4 recruiters, 1 advert, duplicated 8 times. That's 32 adverts for 1 vacancy overnight. You see where this is going, can't you? And then what happens? Well, once the job boards have got that data, are they going to sell it? Are they going to reuse it? Are they going to distribute it to their sister job boards as well? Because the more adverts for jobs they have, the more credible they are. Probably get more people registering, and they'll certainly get more subscribers, and they'll make more money, which is what they're there to do. And so, yes, you're probably going to get lots of duplication there. So those 32 adverts, let's say there's only duplication of a factor of ×3, and that's me being prudent and not too cynical. 32 becomes 96 adverts for one vacancy, almost overnight. 96. And that's just the preferred suppliers here that have been invited to get involved in this recruitment effort. What about the mudslingers in recruitment who get wind of this possible vacancy? They put poorly worded adverts out there because they don't have a job description, and they start slinging mud or CVs at their non-clients. And so you've got all of that to wade through as well. So you've got 96 plus all of the duplication of all their effort as well, which wasn't even supposed to happen. Can you see now why I'm saying maybe 1%, less than 1% of all those vacancies? Now, of course, I'm talking about all the vacancies. Now, you're not going to use every single place that all of these adverts appear, of course. But can you see how much rubbish there is to wade through to get to where you want to? And even if you find a real vacancy, and they're not all real, by the way, I mean, no mistake about that. But there's other reasons why they wouldn't be real. We're not going to go into that now, but there's lots of them, okay? I've been around the block. I was in recruitment. I've dealt with so many people who, of course, placed vacancies in what I do now through PIMCO. People have said, yeah, we involved ourselves in a bit of that behavior as well. They admit it. But let's say it is a real vacancy. Doesn't mean it's you can get it. It might be that you never had a chance, because we all know that in this politically correct era, the vacancy has to be advertised, doesn't it? According to that company's policy or that organization's policy. Even though they know who they're going to promote in the IT department already, they go through all of these motions when they already know who's going to get the job. How many job seekers did that upset? How much time and money has been wasted there? But hey, it's politically correct. Anyway, so what about if it's a real vacancy? You do theoretically have a chance of landing it, but you've got a problem because you've seen an advert for that vacancy and it's clearly the same vacancy from 3 different sources. Let's say it's 3 recruiters. One of them might not be a preferred supplier. They're not going to advertise that they are not, in fact, a preferred supplier. If you go through them, your application probably dies like that instantly. Oops. What if they are all 3 legit preferred suppliers of that company, and they won't all have an equal relationship, you know, that recruiter with that hiring manager? It might be that one of them has a fantastic relationship. They put such good quality candidates in front of that employer that the employer says, you send me a candidate, I'm going to interview them because you only give me quality. But you don't know which one of these 3 that is. So you don't even have enough information to know which way to direct your application. So can you see the massive duplication? Is the vacancy even real? Do you even have a chance at it? Which way should you go to get to it? Endless problems and frustrations here. Not nearly as attractive as it first appeared. You thought, right, I need a job. Look at all these vacancies. They're not vacancies. They're adverts for vacancies. But 1%. Okay, it does wind me up when you see these job boards or anyone advertising them, and they say, oh, we have 50,000 vacancies, when they mean we have 50,000 adverts for vacancies, because there aren't actually 50,000 vacancies in real life, are there? Really annoying. False advertising even, perhaps. Okay, so let's move on from that one. Big problems there. Recruiters. Now, putting aside your feelings about recruiters, which are probably interesting, but let's consider why they can't be of all that much use to you in certain ways, in ways that you might expect them to be. Let me put it another way. If you were to go to them and they quickly ascertain that they don't have a vacancy for you, not with their clients, they haven't got a live vacancy for you right there at that moment, in fairness, the call should end there. Okay, they shouldn't be leading you into any other false expectations. But, and they will, by the way, sometimes for their own purposes and agenda, maybe just to endear themselves to you because you're a manager. So when you do land a job without their help, just maybe they can remind you, hey, we're friends now. Could you steer some vacancies over to me? All right. I'm not being cynical. I lived a life, remember? I was a recruiter for a lot of years. Okay, so, but let's say then they were to say, or you expected them, and this is where so many job seekers go wrong in their expectations of recruiters. let's say you expect them to proactively market you out to help you find those opportunities. So they're going to go knocking on doors of 100 companies and say, I've got this great candidate. I'm selling this great candidate. Okay. Well, first of all, they're selling you. And so there's a big old fee here. And so that's probably going to slow down or kill the dialogue immediately. If they can get into dialogue, we'll come to that in a second. Well, if you make the approach directly, there's no fee. So that's not going to be a stumbling block. And so, okay, so they would have to do it with a fee. And then, but even in terms of them getting into dialogue with these 100 companies, and they're not preferred suppliers for those 100 companies, because most recruiters will probably only be preferred supplier to, what, 2, 3, 4, 5 tops companies. You know, once you've got a few preferred supplier arrangements there, you don't have time to do any other vacancies. You're consumed by the needs of those clients, those few clients. So they can't proactively market you out because they're not there for you. They're there for those clients. And if they were to call these 100 companies on your behalf because they're so impressed with you, then here's what's going to happen. Hi, company A, I've got this fantastic candidate, but, hello. They can't get into dialogue because those employers are saying, are you on our preferred suppliers list? No. Then stop calling me. That's why we have a preferred suppliers list. You're not on it. Okay, so those conversations go nowhere. Now, if they try hard enough, if they knock enough doors, then they might get lucky. Some of them will do that, and with some degree of success. But it's not nearly enough for you to rely on them to proactively market you out. That is a bad expectation. The only exception to that is if they are ultra niche providers, ultra niche, and you are very much within that niche. That's fine, okay? But 95% of recruiters find candidates for vacancies. They don't find vacancies for candidates. It doesn't work because they can't get into dialogue with all the companies they would need to approach on your behalf. All right, so if you're going to engage with them proactively, that is, say you go to them, not them coming to you. That's different. If they come to you, it's probably about a vacancy and you should probably listen. But if you go to them, they're not going to be too enthusiastic. And this is why, by the way, they're so often in meetings on client side, unavailable at the moment. Are you kidding me? They live on the phone. It's what they do. They step away from the phone too long, their boss is going to be on their backs. Okay, these are excuses because they don't want you approaching them. They are trained to find you when they need you. They have a specific job to fill, specific details on a job description and person specification, and they're going to specifically look for those skills, and they are trained to do that. Where? The likes of LinkedIn, yes, and job boards, yes, and advertised vacancies, okay? But they are trained to look for you. So don't go wasting too much time chasing them. Now, I can teach you ways, by the way, to make it more likely that they can find you when they're looking for your skill set. LinkedIn optimization. We're not going to talk about that now. You have to check out my other videos or have a free consultation. And this doesn't mean, by the way, optimizing your profile to improve the grammar, put a nice pretty picture on there or something. We're talking about clever stuff that manipulates your profile to make it more visible to the search results, the algorithms that generate search results, as started by the people doing the searching, the buyers. They do a search, the algorithms generate results. You have to be on the list of results. But more than that, you have to be high enough up the list of results. Oh, here I am. I said I wouldn't tell you about LinkedIn optimization, and I just did. But anyway, there are things you can do to make them chase you. But chasing them is a bad pursuit most of the time. Waste of time, okay? Okay, can you now see this lot is in many ways inadequate? So I'm suggesting here that you only do this for about 30% of your time, the other 70% to do more proactive things. What proactive things? Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I would allude to, what are the alternatives? Okay, so super quick overview. There's a 9-minute video you might want to watch on pimco.co.uk, right there on the homepage. And it talks about, why you should get motivated to be a better job seeker. But also the 9-minute one is about, it's a little bit of this. And then the second half of that video is about the alternatives. Okay, so let me allude to that. So the alternatives to this lot. How about you tap into the hidden job market? What's the hidden job market? It's the unadvertised job market. Now, there's lots of reasons why a company wouldn't advertise either right away or at all. Lots of reasons. Here are a few. Because the vacancy is too sensitive to advertise. Because they don't want to be embarrassed. Because they don't want their customer base to think, oh, no, my internet provider needs a head of service assurance. Maybe then the service is, a bit wonky, and they need someone else. It might make them nervous and choose a different supplier. Okay. What about if they've had 3 marketing directors in 9 months and they're embarrassed they need a third one or a fourth one so quickly? What does that say about the company? Does that affect share prices? What about the vacancy just hasn't been written yet? What about if it's not been authorized yet? What about if the company says, and this is very real these days, in these changing times, the company might say to the recruiter, we do have a couple of good vacancies come in, but we're not going to share them with you right away. We're going to see if we can do it ourselves through LinkedIn, discreetly. So no advert. And they fail, and then hopefully they go to the recruiter and give the vacancy to them. The recruiter will advertise discreetly and whatnot. But can you see now there's a hidden job market? You want to tap into it. How do you do that? I can give you 2 very specialist ways to do that. It requires detailed training, and I can teach you how to do that efficiently so that you have very viable, exciting opportunities that exist outside of these 3 traditional means of getting a job. Okay, we'll talk about the premise for everything I do, which is this 3 steps. Get noticed, step 1. Get qualified. That means allow them to qualify your suitability for a role online. And then get interviewed. Okay, you cannot avoid this process of job seeking. Okay, so look at it from their perspective. They're going to start with, a recruiter's going to look at 300 people a day, 500 people a day, glancing at them, the results to their searches on LinkedIn, CVs that come in as a result of the advert they placed. And they can only therefore do seconds on each one until they answer one question. Is this a potential candidate or just a random job seeker? If you can elevate yourself in their minds in 20, 30 seconds from random job seeker to potential candidate, now you've made it to step 2. Congratulations. Now you can start selling. How do you do that? Initially through your CV. See what I mean? So step 1 is seconds. They'll give each of these they're not even prospective candidates at this point, they're just job seekers, They're looking through all these results to their searches. What about this guy? No. What about this one? Nah, wrong location. This one, too expensive. This one, oh, terrible grammar. Can't communicate properly. And then seconds. So can you sell yourself in seconds? Okay. This is getting noticed. There's things that you can do to increase the likelihood that they will find you in the first place and then dwell on you for those few seconds. And you better be able to sell yourself in those few seconds to get to that next stage. Yes, you're a potential candidate now, not a job seeker, but a potential candidate. They want to further qualify. Step 2, get qualified. Qualify your suitability for a role against the criteria that's been laid down by their client. Okay, we've got a job description and a person specification. Does this candidate match it? And if you do enough, congratulations. Step 3, get interviewed. Now you can try and close the deal. Okay, so can you see now? There's alternatives in terms of how you communicate. You have to be better at marketing so that you win attention in the first place. LinkedIn optimization, speculative approaches, done smartly. I've never met anyone who had a clever way to do speculative approaches. Okay, part of that's because if they're talking to me, they're probably flailing around and don't really know what they're doing in their job seeking anyway. I'm sure there are people that do it well, but if there are, they don't need to be talking to me. So speculative approaches done smartly. Okay. Very specific training. This is not conceptual. This is detailed. Click on this, click on that, do this, do that, and look at the opportunities coming in compared to what you had before. Okay. Look at my LinkedIn recommendations. Most recent one, Matt Gibbons. He had fantastic results in a few weeks where he'd had abject failure for many months. Okay. LinkedIn recommendation on my profile. And look at the other ones as well. I love it when they talk about which bit of my training that most benefited them or the bit that they feel that tipped them over the edge and got them the job. Okay. So, there's other stuff. There are other things that we can do. We can talk about, we can improve every aspect of your communication. So in summary, I help people get competitive advantage because job seeking is a competition. It's like the hurdles. The various steps are hurdles. You have to jump them successfully because if you fall over at any hurdle, you lose the race every single time. There is no margin of error here. If you don't get noticed in the first place, step 1, well, then you can't impress anybody because they don't know you exist. If you fail at step 2, hurdle 2, they don't like your CV, so you don't get an interview. What about if you get to the interview repeatedly, but you're not very good at interviews, so you keep losing there? That's frustrating. These are just the 3 big steps. What if I was to break down these 3 steps, these 3 hurdles into the sort of smaller ones? You got to jump those too. And if you trip on any of those, you're out of the game, the race, the contest. So you've got to get into your head that job seeking is nothing to do with being good at your job. It's about convincing people that you are good at what you do. That's That's marketing, that's selling, and that's closing the deal. If you don't know how to do that, or if you don't have a personality that lends itself to doing that, then you need to get help. Okay. And now let's consider, and there's a video about why you should be a better job seeker. Again, pimco.co.uk homepage there. And it's let's get clear about why it is so crucial in your life to be a better job seeker, to minimize the disruption, the time between jobs, which costs you a lot of money, and the stress you go through when you are between jobs, and how if you create the luxury of choice, you can get a better job that's more fulfilling and satisfying to you. It's going to improve and enhance the quality of your life. A job that you deserve, a job that fits your personality. I'll talk to you about the personality of you and the personality profile of the job that you are doing. And when we see the difference, we start getting a sense of what you can do to improve your working life, what job you need to move to. Or perhaps there's wiggle room in your current job. You could go to your boss and say, I need to get out of the office and meet more customers. I need to extrovert more. I'm stuck here in the office and I'm an extrovert. I like to talk to people. Okay. So lots of other possibilities. I'm just alluding to them. So don't be only doing that. Let's get aware of these possibilities. Okay. Look at those videos, call me up, book a free consultation, and then let's help you see the possibility that exists beyond these traditional tools. All right. It's a big deal. I'm hoping that you recognize that now. You might have been suspicious of it before. Good chance you were, because that's why you're looking for the answers. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Get in touch with me. I look forward to your call, and all the very best for now. Good luck in your job search, okay? All the best. Bye-bye.